Hey, what's going on, kids? And welcome to Kicker Rocks Podcast, Two Drink Minimum. It's episode number 50, and you know what that means? Well, you don't yet, but the beginning of the episode will tell you what it's all about. Anyway, thank you for joining us. So crack open a drink, sit back, relax, and enjoy. When you hear that sound, you know what time it is, kids. It's time for Kicker Rocks Podcast, Two Drink Minimum. Cheers. I'm Bill.
I'm Sergio.
And that's going to be it for today. It's a classic Bill and Sergio episode. Serge, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing pretty well. Thank you.
What's our topic
and
today,
you?
man? I'm great. I'm always great, you know. What's our topic today?
I think it has to do with...
It's a special episode, right? What episode number are we in?
We're in our 50th episode.
50? You mean 5-0?
Yeah, 5-0. So
5-0.
Yeah.
What should the topic be for 5-0?
You know what? I'm not sure. What do you think?
Well, I think it has to be favorite cop movie. Oh,
I think you nailed it. I think you nailed it.
That is maybe our single best joke that we've ever had on the podcast. And we lost.
It's perfect.
We lost all of our subscribers. They all just logged off right now.
Yeah,
they turned it off. But that's okay.
Pretty much.
We're gonna keep going. But yeah, man, you and me, we're talking. We're gonna do favorite cop movies. Which, you know what? When you first say it, I got to be honest. When I thought about the various movies that I might pick for this, I didn't think there'd be that many to choose from for whatever reason.
Really?
It turns out I like a lot of cop movies. So
cop movies are great.
Yeah, this actually became a tough one to narrow down to just a few picks here, but we're gonna try. What was it like for you? Same scenario?
No. As soon as I heard about the idea of doing a cop episode, I immediately knew what my number one option was going to be. So
okay, well then you know what?
Let's
hear that number one option you're so confident in. I want to hear it. What do you got?
So, I mean, as soon as we talked about doing this type of idea where, 50th episode, 5-0, let's do a show about our favorite cop movies. The very first one that popped in my head, it was probably the very first movie that I ever saw at home. And I'll give a little backstory about that after I say the name. But the movie I'm selecting is Beverly Hills Cop. For me, that movie is hands down, again, for me, hands down, one of the best cop movies. I mean, we're talking Eddie Murphy in his prime. He just came off of SNL. He's got two hilarious stand-up comedy episodes through HBO. I believe the first one was Delirious. The second one was Raw. So he was in his prime doing his best work. And Beverly Hills Cop was one of those movies that the first time I saw it, and the reason that I saw it, because I was young when I first saw it. And this is the backstory about why this is the first cop movie I ever saw in my house. It's because we are talking about the 80s when the VHS was pretty new in the market, and homes having a VCR was a very big deal. So it was the Christmas that my parents decided to get us a VCR. And
oh my gosh,
for some reason, our parents got us a VCR for the home, Christmas, whatever Christmas year that was, 86, 87, I'm not sure. And the very first VHS that they owned and they purchased was the movie Beverly Hills Cop. I don't know why they decided to get it. I honestly think it might have been a gift from my dad's coworker, which is why we had it. But okay. I just remember, and I'm going to lose a lot of the kids here, I just remember that joy of being able to put in a VHS tape into the VCR, pressing play, fast forwarding through the FBI warning, obviously, fast forwarding through and by the just so if no one knows what you mean by fast forward, you couldn't skip, you couldn't skip these things like you would have on a DVD, Blu-ray, or even streaming devices now don't even bother having anything in front. But you had to fast forward to get to the movie. So I remember fast forwarding through FBI warning, fast forwarding through the trailers. and then finally being able to watch Eddie Murphy opening up in downtown Detroit to a very fun song of "The Heat Is On," and seeing him in the back of a semi truck trying to sell stolen Lucky Strike cigarettes. And from then on, the movie just kept you on the edge of the seat with the jokes left and right. Half of them I didn't understand because I was too little to understand them, but I knew this was gold. And since then, it has always been and will forever be my favorite cop movie of all time. So there you go.
Wow. All right. Fantastic. That's a good pick. I mean, best music in a cop movie, do we think? I mean, certainly, to use a word we use frequently on this podcast, certainly an iconic main theme, right? I mean,
exactly.
Come on. There's nobody that doesn't know do 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 do. I mean,
yeah.
Let's just spend the rest of the podcast doing
that. That'll be our transition. All right, next topic.
Yeah, that's a fantastic pick. Good use of just a fun cop movie and also, funny as well. So that's awesome. Great pick there.
Yeah. How about you? What was after you took a minute to sit down and think through what your favorite cop movies are?
Man.
What was the first thing that you think of?
I mean, I hope we have time. I think we will. It's just us for some honorable mentions because there be a few of those. But the one that just kept popping back into my head, that the quotes from the movie and the scenes from the movie just kept popping in, was Lethal Weapon 2. So that, yes,
2.
Part 2, important distinction there. I like the other ones just fine, but 2 stands out to me, and I think is the best one. We could talk about. There's an argument to be made. We can get into like the depths of we could go into like a Rocky style argument with this, right?
Absolutely.
But or the infamous Terminator T2 argument that we've had several times on the podcast. But yeah, Lethal Weapon 2 for me, I think it takes what works in the original and is actually a sequel that builds upon everything in the right way. It just doubles down on everything. It's action packed. It's funny. It's has its sad moments as well. Not always happy ending for Riggs and Murtaugh, right? It's got a great villain, which is always important in these movies. I think if you have great villains, that also adds to it. The heroes also are great too. Riggs and Murtaugh. You add in the introduction of Joe Pesci's character, Leo Getz, in this one, who that character was. I don't know if they planned on having him around in the sequels, but he was such a funny and popular character in this one that they had to put him in the subsequent entries in the series after that. That's what it seems like to me. So that's always a strong character when you have that. He became more of a caricature, I think, in the later ones, where it just became like him going, okay, right? But still good, still funny.
Sorry to interrupt, but so one, I find it interesting that you picked 2. But one thing I always liked about that franchise, so more than I liked about so for me, Beverly Hills Cop, the first one's the only good one. The other 2 are just okay. But for Lethal Weapon, all 4 are very good in their own right.
I agree. I don't think there's a really bad one, but I do have my favorites.
No, there's not a bad one. But what I loved about what they did is that in every single new one to come out, they kept the previous characters and added to it to make it better. So to your point, the first one was it focused on Danny Glover and Mel Gibson. And then in the second one, they added Joe Pesci. In the third one,
Rene Russo, right?
Yeah. Rene Russo. And then in the fourth one, they added
Chris Rock.
Chris Rock and Jet Li. So it's every single time it was that's one thing I really loved about that franchise. And it's the main reason why I had no problem buying all 4 of them as a collection, on iTunes, because each one just for me got better and better because of the writing and the adding of the new characters, and it just made each one better.
Okay, well, future podcast is a Lethal Weapon binge, and then we're gonna rank them.
Seriously,
We're gonna force ourselves to rank them in order.
I'm ready to rank them now. Do you want to
Really
do you want to preemptively rank them and then watch them all again and then see what we think
Yeah,
later?
off the top of my head, I'm going 2, 2, 4, 1, 3, best to worst.
2, 4, 1, 3. Okay, I'm gonna say 1, 4, 2.
Interesting.
3. Yeah. Well, to me, the first one was always. There's something about the first one of a franchise. It's you wouldn't have the other ones if you didn't have the first one. There's a lot of arguments there. I think you and I both agree. Rocky 4. Is it you like Rocky 4 better? I think you and I had this conversation. Or is it that you like Rocky 1 better? Who's the one that doesn't agree with Rocky 4 being?
No, I think actually JT and Tony maybe don't agree with 4 at all.
Okay.
I think, yeah. Not everyone agrees with that. It's a tough sell. It's a very cheesy movie, but it's the one I've probably seen the most is 4 for whatever reason. So it's fun. Yeah.
But to bring it back to this one, for me, 1 was the better of the collection, but then 4, because of what I just said, where you had all this entirely great cast, and it they just all shined in their own way. And honestly, when you just talked about Joe Pesci's character being the I character, and he's just kind of a joke, you have to admit his speech at the cemetery is probably like the best for me. It was the best monologue of that entire.
I know what you're talking about.
Entire scene of the entire movie.
I stand corrected. He did have them. Maybe, yeah. Okay. See, I'd have to see him again. I feel like maybe in 3 then. And I love that we both agree that 3 is it's not terrible, but it's the worst of the 4.
Yeah.
You're right. I think maybe to me, maybe Pesci's character dips in the 3rd one, but comes back strong in the 4th one. So there you go. Yeah. You're right. That moment is good. He is, he's part of the family, as we do at the end of that one. So yeah, Pesci's there. You're right. They keep adding on to it in a great way, and they do get more and more fleshed out as they go forward. You're right. Yeah. Okay, so we got 4 we agree is number, so we disagree on the placement of 1 and 2. That's interesting. I like that. Okay, solid arguments, I'm sure, for both, but 2 to me, I guess, is like 2 and 4 combined are the most quotable for me, and 2 just kept popping in my head, and namely just diplomatic immunity just been revoked. Is come on, that ending. 2 has such a great ending. I love it. Just everything that goes down at the docks, and the giant ass container falling, and then Murtaugh making the shot on the guy, gives him that cheesy line, saving Riggs, and these things will kill you or whatever, and they're just both there, like laughing, at the end of it, when they're chaos is all around them and stuff. It's such a good buddy cop ending, I think, right there. So so that's why that one's definitely my number 1. Just kept popping in there. So Lethal Weapon Part 2, but there is an argument for other ones in the franchise for sure.
And out of curiosity, who directed Lethal Weapon 2?
Who directed Lethal Weapon Dos? That's a good question. I don't know off the top of my head. Let me look that up really quick.
I want to say it's your favorite
director. My God. That's so funny. Of course, Richard Donner.
The infamous Richard Donner.
I must secretly hate him, because I certainly like his movies, but I hate him. I can never remember him. Oh God!
I think he's truly your director's nemesis, if that's the thing.
It must be one of those things where he's just literally it's never on my radar, but I wind up liking everything he does pretty much. But I couldn't tell you, it's like, oh yeah, it's definitely Richard Donner. That's hilarious. All right, again, Richard Donner, I'm the worst, but your movies are awesome, so good job.
Right?
I'm sure you
All
I'm
right.
sure it keeps you awake at night that I don't remember which ones you've directed.
Right. Oh, anything you like, he's directed. That's just keep
That's
that
a
in
rule
mind.
of thumb. Whenever you ask me, "Hey, Bill, who directed that?" I'm just going to instinctively say Richard Donner from now on.
Oh man. Well, I feel like since it's just because of two of us, this went pretty quick to say what our number one choices are. So obviously, we're just going to keep this going
I think so. Yeah, obviously, at least.
until either we get bored or we realize that the audience is so bored that they don't want to listen to us
Well,
anymore.
that's a good idea. Let's at least do round two and see if there's room for three. Let's go.
Yeah. All right. So my round two, I'm going to go with one that I'm not 100% sure is considered a cop movie, but I'm going to go ahead and say it anyways. It's The Fugitive.
What?
So
Defend
yeah.
yourself. No, I'm kidding.
So here's why.
I think I get where you're coming from with that, but yeah, let's hear it.
So there's a couple of reasons why I wasn't 100% sure if this is a cop movie because one, our main character is not a cop. It is
Okay, yeah, true.
Harrison Ford playing Dr. Richard Kimball, who's being accused and he went to jail for the murder of his wife. However, it's just such a good cop movie from the perspective of Tommy Lee Jones' performance as the U.S. Marshal who chased him down and then basically becomes his what would you say? Not friend, but basically the one person who believed that he was not a guilty man and ends up defending him in the end.
Yeah, but he still
And
has to do his job and catch him. So that's the interesting part about that
yeah,
relationship. Yes.
so he's still doing his civil or civic duties. Is it civic duties or
His
civil
civic
duties?
duties, but yeah,
His yeah,
he's following the breadcrumbs that Kimball's leaving him too. It's almost
exactly.
like Kimball's not so much trying to get away as proving his innocence and leading the cops to solve the case. And I think in that respect, it's also a very good cop/detective story because it's Kimball really is doing the legwork
Yeah,
solving his wife's murders. So,
exactly. And Tommy Lee Jones is, like you said, just following the breadcrumbs
yeah,
to learn exactly what really happened here.
yeah, it's a
And
very interesting cat and mouse how it all plays out and how he figures it all out and everything. Yeah, but yeah, you're right. Tommy Lee Jones is fantastic in that movie.
yeah, and I mean, they're being Chicagoans. There's
Yeah,
nothing better than seeing a movie that is filmed in Chicago. Granted, it's the mid '90s, and the landscape has changed profusely since then. But there's
mhm,
just so many cool shots of downtown bridges. I mean, you got the St. Patty's Day parade
right.
mixed into a really great scene. Various shots of the South Side, and like the lake area on the south east side of the city. It's just a very fun Chicago film, and I don't know. I just always enjoyed it. I thought it was a great story. I thought the relationship between Tommy Lee Jones and Harrison Ford was just always well done. So yeah, so that's going to be my second choice of a top cop movie.
I think yeah,
And,
I think you can make that argument, man. I think yeah, there's gonna be some who say it's definitely not a cop movie, but the genre itself can stretch and become different things. I think, and that could be said for all genres. Some of them can
yeah,
transcend your typical cop movie as well, and I think that's a good one. That's one of them that definitely does it. But yeah, it's a great film. I love that one.
awesome, cool. All right, so your second pick.
All right, we're gonna go a little bit more modern, a bit more 2000s at least. But I'm going with Hot Fuzz.
Ah, yes,
Yes, yes, yes. So
that's a great one.
thank you for those who have never seen Hot Fuzz. It's a comedy,
That it is.
to say the least, but it's basically got Simon Pegg, Nick Frost, Martin Freeman. It's in the Coronado trilogy. It's directed by Edgar Wright, so it follows, Shaun of the Dead, Hot Fuzz, and then The World's End. So it's in that realm basically. Bill Nighy's in it. It's I think it's fantastic. It's first of all, anything those guys make, I'm on board to see. I love all three of those movies I just mentioned in that trilogy. But Hot Fuzz is their take on the cop movie, essentially, and it has some pretty cool thriller and horror movie elements in it as the film goes on too. But at its core, it's very much a buddy cop film, which is awesome, and it's hilarious. It has great action, even though it's cheesy, over the top, violent action, but it works. It's so fun to watch, and it's obviously it's got Edgar Wright at the helm, so the editing is always fun, right? The direction, the editing is pretty great in that film. What I love most about it, though, is you know me, I love homages, right? Whenever we make our sketches or films, whenever we have a chance, we'd love to throw a little homage in there of things that influence us through the years. And Hot Fuzz does that. It was made in 2007, or at least that's when it came out, rather. Probably made a few years before or something, around there. But the point is, there's been a lot of cop movies that came before that, and you could tell they drew upon that. So a lot of it, a lot of the scenes and what takes place in some of the lines are love letters to those other films that came before it in that same genre. There's even an ongoing joke, a running joke in it, where Nick Frost's character references the movies. He loves the movies Point Break and Bad Boys 2, right? And of course, then later in the movie, they almost shot for shot spoof both of those films at various different parts. So like Point Break, he's on the ground and shooting in the air. There's a lot of slow motion Bad Boys 2 references and whatnot, and jumping horizontally with two guns, shooting him in the air while they're landing, which is almost every cop movie, right? That happens.
Yep.
So that's very Lethal Weapon. That's a bunch of different movies that I think this one pays homage to. So for that reason, because it brings all that together, it's definitely on my list. It's one of my favorite movies in that genre for sure, and just movies to watch. I love that one. A lot of fun.
I gotta agree with you 100% on this pick. I completely forgot about this movie when it came to me thinking about cop movies.
Yeah.
But man, Edgar Wright, he is.
He's a director, I remember.
Yeah, he's a director you remember. He is a phenomenal director. But then also like Simon Pegg's performance, and I'm gonna sound like such an asshole right now.
Nick Frost.
Thank you, Nick Frost. Those three, anything they work on together is always just a fun, good time.
For sure.
But one thing I loved about all of like the Coronado trilogy, it's the fact that Edgar Wright cracks me up from the perspective. He always gets that fence bit
right
in all of his movies. So you have in Shaun of the Dead where Simon Pegg is basically going to hop a fence and the fence just topples over. And then in Hot Fuzz, you have it where Simon Pegg, there's a sequence where they're going through but he's like a gymnast, like who like jumps over all the fence perfectly and does a flip over the last one. And then Nick Frost is the one who smashes through the fence. But then they bring it back in The World's End, where it goes back to Simon Pegg not able to jump over the fence. It's like, that is a perfect example of why I personally love Edgar Wright. And I know JT, if he was here right now, he would agree 100% that Edgar Wright is just a great director and knows comedy and how to get a quick bit out of camera action. You know what I mean?
So, he knows how to shoot things funny. Yeah.
And
how things enter and exit a scene sometimes, how they're shot. That can sell the joke and the bit just as well as the performers or the music or anything else. There's a number of things that have to go right for bits to hit or miss, and you never know what that's going to be. That's why they say comedy's hard, right? But there's definitely something to the way things are shot can sell the bit, which is Edgar Wright clearly knows that. And I mean, I look forward to his films because of that. Like, I want to see his stuff because it's always exciting and always going to be a fun experience. So Yeah,
and plus them just making fun of the whole action cop genre with this
it
film.
does.
It's great.
And to my point earlier, I'll say this again because I believe it's true. In the cop genre, the villain also helps sell the movie, and it's a great villain slash villains spoilers in this film.
Right.
Yeah, at first it's quite obvious that it's is it Skinner? Skinner.
Yep. Yep.
I'm trying to think of the actor that plays Skinner. My gosh, why can't I think of his name right now?
Yeah, I can't think of it either.
That's gonna
So let me see if I can
absolutely
look
drive
it
me
up.
crazy. Uh, uh, Timothy Dalton. Duh. Come on. I don't even have to look that up. I know that one. Timothy Dalton. Bond, right? One of the
Yep.
Bonds.
Yep.
Even if it was just for a few or one, whatever. It doesn't matter. It's whatever. So he is great as a Skinner, and the first time you meet him, he says, he's jogging by Simon Pegg, and he says, "Arrest me, I'm a slasher of prices," or whatever. It's just so, oh my god, it's so punny, right? But it's perfect. It's so
Hmm.
perfect, and there's plenty of puns in that
Yep.
movie. But the villain turns out to be the entire village, right? Which is great. They have this cult that's in on the whole thing, and that to me is like a great reveal. I love that, and that makes
Yeah.
the villain in that film is very interesting as well. So yeah, I stand by that. Still holds up. That theory still holds up so far.
I agree 100%.
All right. I think we got time for at least one more. Do you want? Let's do a round three. You up
Yeah.
for it?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, hit me with it. What do you got?
See, this is where a lot of my choices they're so, I mean, like I said earlier, I didn't have a problem coming up with cop movies to pick
Right,
from. So
right.
I'm torn between doing. All right, I'm gonna let you decide what my third pick is gonna be.
Okay.
Bill, do you want me to my third pick to be a comedy, or do you want my third pick to be a really good drama slash action
Oh,
thriller?
crud.
You
I
decide, Bill.
okay. I think in the spirit of this category, I want the action.
Action. All
Mhm.
right. Then my third pick has to be The Departed. I'm
Nice.
just
Good
gonna have
pick.
to go that route. Yeah, a great movie with a star-studded cast.
Sure.
Um, I mean, you got Leonardo DiCaprio. You've
Yeah.
got
That's one
uh,
that Scorsese went all out for, right? I mean,
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
It was just one of those stories. I didn't want to say it was a remake of a Japanese film. I think that was what it originally was,
I believe
but
it is too. I haven't seen it, but I've heard that. Yes.
yeah, and I haven't seen the original, but like
Mhm.
like I said, Leonardo DiCaprio, Matt Damon, Jack Nicholson, Mark Wahlberg has a plays one of the captains in the movie, or not a captain, but another cop in the movie. Actually, let me just give the full premise. So basically, the beauty about this film is it starts off with Leonardo DiCaprio, who is friends with Jack Nicholson's Frank Costello, who's part of the mob,
Sure.
um, and grows up with him and basically decides to go undercover, saying he's a cop, but he's actually an informant for the mob. But then you have Matt Damon's character who goes through the academy and then ends up going undercover into the mob to be an informant. And you basically just get this really awesome back and forth story from both perspectives with both parties involved having an inside man. And it's
Mhm.
like you never really saw this story told like this before. It's always just been like a focus of one side over the other. And it's
Yes.
never been like both parties have an informant. And it just became this very awesome, well directed, well acted, well edited film back in, what was it, like 2009,
Yeah. I
2008,
think I
something
think
like that,
so. Yeah.
maybe a little earlier.
That sounds
But
right though, right around that time.
it was just a really awesome crime story, drama, thriller uh, that like blew me away. At least when I
Mhm.
first saw it, it's one of those movies that I could watch over and over again and enjoy it every
Same.
single time I see it.
Same. Yeah, because it's it's Scorsese first of all, and I'm an easy mark for his films in general. But this one, it's it's a long one. His movies tend to be long, but this one moves. This one moves
Yeah,
like how I feel like Goodfellas moves. Do you know what I mean by that? Like it
yeah,
just the story keeps going and boom, 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 right? Not all of his films do that, but yeah, this one just I don't know if there's a lull in it. Like I'm interested the entire time, which is always good, right?
yeah,
So yeah, this one just moves and moves. The way it's shot, the performances, man, maybe. I mean, there's an argument where this one has some of the best performances all around as a cast in a Scorsese film. And
yep,
you know, I mean, I know the Irishman has some heavy hitters in it. Don't get me wrong, but The Departed does too, and they knock it out of the park. I mean,
yeah,
there's not a bad note in the bunch. I think there's just so many quotable lines too. I mean, Mark Wahlberg is freaking hilarious in it.
oh yeah,
Um, he's great. Martin Sheen, Alec Baldwin, DiCaprio, Damon, Nicholson. Do I have to keep going? Right?
yeah,
Come on,
yeah,
man. It's too good. So yeah, and you're right. The perspective of where it opens up and it shows both those kids and how those
rising
kids'
up,
lives are impacted, right?
yeah,
Based on their decisions and like where it led them to, right? And it's
yep,
funny that the one that wants to lead a life of crime ended up as a police officer, and the one who really wants to be a police officer goes undercover and lives the life of crime. It's just like that's totally, right there. It's like, oh, this is a good story. Let's see where this goes.
yep,
And they don't know each other, but they do, right? It's like they've always known of each other, right? The one guy has a mole, the other guy has, they're both working on opposite sides. They know there's leaks on both sides, but they don't know what each other looks like, right? So pretty crazy. Yeah,
yeah,
it's a good story. That's a great one. Good pick.
yeah.
So not a happy ending though. Man, that one.
No,
Good
no.
lord, that's one of the ones where it's like, oh, am I watching Hamlet? Does everybody have to die? Okay, all right.
Well, hold on, but you do know that like I've got this thing where some of my favorite movies are the movies where all the characters die because that's reality. And if you could be entertained and moved and you know surprised by the end of the movie, especially
Sure,
if everybody dies at the end,
sure.
then yeah, then that's some good filmmaking. You know what I mean? Or
I
maybe you don't know what I mean. I don't
no,
know, but
I
I do love it
do.
when everybody
No,
dies.
I
It's a very
do.
dark thing to say,
It
but
that is a dark thing to say, and I don't. I don't know if I agree with you on the. I love it when everybody dies, but I don't hate it when that happens. To me, it's always like, whoa, what the hell? Like, is anybody gonna make it out of this thing?
right,
What
right.
that movie does, and if you haven't seen it, sorry, spoilers. What that movie does a great job of is that it really makes you forget about Mark Wahlberg, right? So that when
Oh,
he comes up at the end, it's like,
yeah,
oh shit, and
yeah. But
that's
see, that's the thing.
mm,
Everybody dies, but you have that icing on the cake. You
yeah,
have that
yeah,
that element. I'm not going to say that what that is,
okay,
just in case there's anybody who hasn't seen it. Which,
okay,
if you haven't seen it, go and see it. Like, what the hell are you doing? It's like, stop
yeah.
slacking.
I
You need to
mean,
see this movie.
we said everyone dies. We didn't say when, so it's not
Yeah,
completely spoiled. Yeah,
exactly.
yeah. Yeah, but it's definitely a good one to watch if you haven't seen Departed yet. Any of these movies we're mentioning, if you haven't seen them, obviously we're recommending them. So
Yeah,
definitely see these.
exactly.
But yeah, Departed, great flick, good pick.
Yeah.
Sergio, what's the name of this podcast again?
I don't know. I think we're gonna go with
No,
Top
no,
Cop or
no, no. I mean, I know.
two
Just
drink minimum.
okay, good. Um, I just had to make sure that it was okay. All right. Hmm,
Cheers.
cheers,
Cheers.
buddy. All right. So here's mine. Let's see. My turn again. This one. I mean, this one's on. I would think a lot of people's lists, and probably people are listening, going, "Why haven't you guys said this film yet? Are you kidding me?" I think we've talked about this one before. When it came to this, will be a hint at it. When it came to Christmas movies, I believe we talked about this particular film. But we're going
Mm,
back to the '80s for this one,
mm,
and of course, I'm talking about a certain time when John McClane saved a group of people at Nakatomi Plaza. That'd be Die Hard.
Yes.
Yeah. And let's not play with the sequels with this one. I'm talking about the first one, Die Hard. Some of the other sequels, okay. Namely three off the top of my head, and one of the new ones, I just can't remember those names. Once they stop numbering them, I don't know which order they come
Yeah.
in, to be honest. But the first one is still the best.
Well,
And one of the greatest action movies in general to date, I think.
yes. But before you dive into your reasoning, I will say, okay, granted, me personally, I think the first one's the best one.
Mm,
But you have to, if there's anything honorable to say about the other ones, even though they didn't have numbers, you got to give them credit for very good titling, writing of titles, if you will, or
sure.
punny titles.
Oh
I
yeah.
mean, come on, Live Free or Die
Or
Hard.
Die Hard. A
Come on,
Good Day to Die Hard.
it's almost like I almost like want to imagine that they're like there's like a meeting in Hollywood and all these execs are
Yeah.
sitting around the table and one of them just throws out the pun and says, "Oh my God, we got to make that movie," and that's how that movie was made.
Somebody call Bruce Willis.
Yeah. Hey, I've got an idea for a movie. It's called Live Free or Die Hard. What's it about? I don't know. Should we make it? Yeah, let's do it. Like I feel like that's how that movie got made.
Well,
I totally digressed. I'm gonna let you take back your Die Hard.
I love it because
submission.
you're probably right. As the series went on, that's what happened.
Yeah, they started with the title and worked their way back.
Yeah, at the same time, to your point earlier of how the first one starts it all, right? You're only able to do that if the first one is incredible, which this
Mhm.
one is, and if the main
Yep.
character is awesome, which this one is. There's no doubt that John McClane is one of the best everyman action heroes ever. Like he didn't look like Schwarzenegger or Stallone or take your pick of any of the action heroes or Van Damme, right?
Oh yeah,
He
exactly.
didn't. He didn't. He looked like Joe
He was
Schmo from the South Side of Chicago could have been John
at
McClane.
the time he was a TV
Yes.
star. He was in
Oh,
moonlighting. His
joy,
biggest
the
thing was
joy of all
moonlighting.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, his biggest things were moonlighting and a cheesy movie called like Blind Date or something like that.
Yes. Okay. Quick side note to that point. Go on Netflix right now. If you're a fan of Die Hard, watch the movies that made us. There is an episode on Die Hard. It's fantastic. You will appreciate it if you're a fan. Watch it. Anyway, it's shocking after you watch that this movie even got made. So it's crazy that it was even successful. You know,
Yep.
it's nuts. But yeah, Bruce Willis is a badass in that movie. The Die Hard formula is just, beat the crap out of this guy for 90 minutes and he keeps coming back and he wins at the end. He somehow perseveres.
Yep.
You root for him the whole time because the situation keeps getting worse. And that is the best part about this film. It's so unassuming at first. He doesn't want to go to this party. He's trying to, fix his marriage basically. So he's coming out to the coast, gonna have a few laughs, right? And he's going to the Christmas party and everything, and then all hell breaks loose when the Germans come in, led by, to my theory again, Hans. Okay, shout out to the late Alan Rickman, one of the great villains of all time. Okay, I don't think there's an argument to be made there, right?
Yep.
He's just too
100%.
good as Hans Gruber. I mean,
Hmm.
that's just the best right there. So, Mr. McClane, so I had to. I couldn't resist. So, yeah, I mean that movie's just got everything going for it, and the fact that just the way it escalates, and he is suddenly, as Hans calls him, the cowboy, right? He's just this lone ranger character. Just he's out on his own, and fortunately, he's a badass, and it turns out he can take a beating and also take out a group of terrorists,
Yep.
that are threatening an entire plaza. So it's just fun to watch that whole story unfold. And yeah, I mean, it's also a Christmas movie, so I guess it falls into that genre. I guess
That's
we could make that argument, even though Bruce Willis said it wasn't or something. I don't know. Who knows?
That is on my yearly Christmas movie list to watch every year. So
Yeah,
I will agree with
you
that.
almost have to. But yeah, I mean that one's got to be on the list. I think that's on a lot of people's list of just action movies in general. But I mean, he's the
Yeah,
lone cop. He's got to stop the bad guys. That's as simple as it gets, right there for a plot, right?
yeah,
But it
exactly.
works. It works perfectly.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So
Awesome.
Die Hard. There you go. And
All right.
there'll be a seventh installment coming soon. I don't know what they're
No,
going to call
wait, really? Hold on.
it.
I
I
did
don't.
not know this.
No, I'm just making that up.
Oh, I was about to say, I think, well, here's the thing. We're living in an age where all of these, you've got the Rambo franchise and the new Creed franchise, which
Right.
continues,
Right.
Rocky going.
Well, I
But
think I think what you need is John McClane needs to fight COVID-19 in the next film, right?
yeah, I think that
Yeah.
would be a great sequel. And I after you said that, I just had this vision in the back of my head of all of these like Hollywood screenwriters, just putting pen to paper on all of these COVID action movies,
I,
like taking over the world scenarios.
I
Like
yeah, like
I feel like
off
we're gonna be
off topic. Like how many movies are we going to see in the next couple of years that are like virus based, right?
yeah,
Like
yeah,
we're going to see Outbreak 50 times. You
yeah.
know what I mean? Like that's all people are gonna do. That's gonna sell, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
and at least one of those ideas needs to be
John
about
McClane versus
uh,
COVID. Yeah.
or about COVID cop.
COVID
The
cop.
story of this
Mm,
lonely, overworked cop who's just works just a little bit too long, a little too hard. He thinks his days are numbered,
right?
and all of a sudden he finds
Some
these scientists who
stupid
are
spring
working on
breakers in Florida. And then he's like,
this.
I can thrive here.
Yes, yes, and all of a sudden, next thing you know, there's an outbreak, and
Yeah.
he's solving a murder that is being the government's trying to say that it's COVID related, but he's saying it's not. I
There
think
you
we've
go.
got an idea here. I think we've got our next big Kick a Rock project
I think it's got
brewing
legs.
right
I
now,
think it's got legs. Yeah. Yeah.
or tentacles, or whatever you would call that a virus has that sticks out of it.
Force?
Pores. It's got
I don't know.
yes. This is we're deleting all of this. This last minute and a half.
No, this is the best part of the podcast so far. What are you talking about? Delete.
All
Get
right.
out of here. All right. But I think that's going to do it. I think three's good. Man, there's just some more keep popping in my head. RoboCop. Jesus, that's a great one.
Jesus.
Man, there's
Other guys. The other guys. That's a good
the
one.
other guys. It's hilarious. Yes, good pick.
Yeah.
So many honorable mentions. Man, guys, whoever's listening, let us know. Comment on our page, please. Go to it, Facebook, and let us know what your picks are for this, because there are just too many to choose from for this category, in my opinion. And let us know if our picks were off base too.
Yeah. Or let us know your interest level for COVID Cop, and if you
Yeah,
would like to see that come out in 2021.
yeah. And also, you heard me say it first: John McClane versus the coronavirus, probably next. So probably gonna have to sue a big studio coming soon. Anyway, Sergio, do your thing. Well, it's
No.
Tony's thing, but do Tony's thing and take us out.
Tony, why couldn't you join us today? Here we go. I don't even know how does he start it? How does he even go? He
I
just
think he
starts
says
rambling.
he's like, "This has been right."
Oh yeah, it does
Yeah.
start off with this has been another episode of Kick a Rock's 2 Drink Minimum. Chicka waka pow wow chow wow now kana mana blah 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 blah.
I thought that was beautiful.
That really sucked. This is why we miss Tony.
Yeah. Well, you know what? You did a great job.
Thank you, Bill. Cheers.
Cheers. And that's going to do it for this episode. Thank you so much for tuning in. As we mentioned at the end of the podcast, if you have any comments or concerns, did we miss a film that you really love in that cop genre? Did we mention one that you think shouldn't be on there? You know where you can let us know. Go right on our Facebook page. You can do that. You can comment on our iTunes. You can download and subscribe to the podcast on Spotify or, hey, any of your preferred podcast mediums, whatever you want to choose, wherever you get your media, we'll be there for you. Anyway, thank you guys. It's been 50 episodes. This is pretty wild. We just do honestly want to say thank you from the bottom of our hearts, from everybody at Kick Rock. It means a lot that you guys listen. We love doing these podcasts, so we're going to keep them coming, and hopefully you'll stick with us through all of them. This has been 2 Drink Minimum. We've been drinking, thinking, and talking shop. Cheers, everybody.